Hi everybody, Dan here. I want to go over some of the concepts from our reading and maybe highlight a couple of things or add to a couple of things where I thought the book could have done more. And one has to do with the idea of asking questions during a negotiation. Well, it's very important to ask questions. We do that to identify and clarify the interests of our counterpart. Remember, the interest, not their position. We know their position. We want to get beneath their position to the interest. But when you provoke a discussion and you start talking, creative things happen. You never know what's going to happen in a conversation. And opportunities for win-win solutions do pop up. Here's where I wanted to elaborate a little bit. The book does talk about active listening, and I gave you a couple of video links to add to that. But I want to point out that active listening can sound a little manipulative if you're not careful. A car salesman, for example, is an expert at active listening. And they're always saying things like, "So what you're saying, Dan, is you want a monthly payment you can live with. Is that right?" See, I don't consider that active listening. I consider that a sales technique. I don't like questions like that because the second I agree, I'm giving him permission to launch into his next step, which is adjusting the monthly payment. So that salesperson is not asking a question in good faith. He's not asking the question for clarity. He's asking it simply to transition to his next pre-planned step. I don't think we want to do that in a negotiation. We want to ask questions in order to truly understand our counterpart's position initially, and then, of course, his or her interests ultimately. Now, your counterpart may not know his or her true interests. Believe me, it's happened to me Hey, there have been times when I didn't know my true interests, especially when you're in a hurry and you go into a negotiation trying to wing it. So that's all the more important to have that conversation. And it can lead to, a wonderful discovery. Remember the Pakistani prunes. Here we were arm wrestling with Dr. Kim over his position, when underneath it all, when we discovered his interests, there was no conflict at all. One of us wanted the pit, one of us wanted the pulp. Nothing to fight over. So that's why we do it. That's where we're going when we have these conversations prompted by questions. The book talks about a pre-negotiation checklist. This is something you don't want to gloss over. Before you walk into a negotiation, you should have a checklist. You should also have an agenda. We'll talk about an agenda in a different learning unit. But certainly, before you go in there, you should know your own interests. They should be written down. It's easy to get off track. It's easy not to address some of the things that you should address unless they're written down. You want to know what the issues are, at least on your side. And in other words, you can guess some of the issues on the other person, but you got to know yours pretty much to the bone. And you have to be able to prioritize them. What's more important to you? What's less important to you? So that you can log roll. Remember that term in the reading? Log rolling simply means conceding certain issues that are not that important to you, but they might be important to your counterpart. You want to know your goal, definitely. You want to know your resistance point. By the way, the resistance point is high for the buyer, low for the seller. What I mean by that is a buyer will only pay so much. He'll only go so high. Any higher than this, I'm walking. It's the same with the seller. The seller will only go so low. I'm not going to sell below this number or I'm walking. So it's high for the buyer, low for the seller. You want to know what you will settle for, and if you can't get that, you've got to know your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And of course, it's good to know the other side's BATNA if possible. Sometimes it is possible. Now, they may tell you a BATNA. That may not be true. It may be a bargaining chip. But do your research, learn the marketplace, know your competition, and you'll have some kind of idea for their BATNA. And you also want to identify whether or not this is a one-time negotiation or is there a possibility for more business. If it's a one-time negotiation, then different rules apply. It might be much more competitive. If this is one of many negotiations and there's a future relationship, well, then obviously it's going to be a collaborative win-win. I'm going to skip that common ground. I'll get to that in a second. Exploding offers. I'm so glad the book talked about this. I want to elaborate just a little bit because I think exploding offers represent an opportunity for us on the other side of the exploding offers. I'll give you an idea. This happens in sales all the time, especially during the beginning of the year in January, the time in which your quota is assigned to you as a salesperson, and you have to, sign the paper. And my manager would always say, "All right, Dan, I'll see you tomorrow morning." And we'd have an appointment. I'd walk into his office, and it was chaos. Papers stacked everywhere. His tie is loosened. His hair's messed up. He's frenzied. And he says, "Sorry, Dan, I'm really under the gun. I'm in the hot seat. I only got 10 minutes before I have to upload all of this stuff to corporate. Here, sign here." Now, as a young man, I accepted this urgent time frame, and I signed the paper. As I got older and more cynical, I realized that this was a ploy. This is a version of an exploding offer. And remember the key word we can use from our reading? You can agree to an exploding offer provisionally, which means, provided that. And so I just want to elaborate a little bit. I think exploding offers are the time for you to ask for more. They give you an exploding offer. It's often framed, this is it, take it or leave it. Your answer can be a provisional yes if you can get more. Now, some of the things you might want to get more of would be information. For in the example I'm using, I would ask my manager, "How did you arrive at this quota?" Because it doesn't seem in sync with the market research I've done. And I'd pull out my objective criterion and then put him on the spot because I know how he got his quota. He got his quota because he's assigned a quota from corporate. He's got 5 salespeople. He divides that quota by 5, and there's Dan's quota. Now, what I wanted to do is take some of that quota off of my back and put it on the backs of my good friends, the other salespeople. And so I would put him on the spot. "How did you come up with this number?" And he would start to stutter and stammer because he couldn't defend the number. Also, I could ask for more administrative support. I could tell him I can't be doing reports every afternoon and evening to send upline. I need help. I need a dedicated secretarial support. Or I could ask for more advertising on the part of the company, or a bigger budget for my branch, or a company car. In other words, they did not want to see me coming when it came to quota time because I would always ask for more. This is how you hit the ball back into their court. When I say them, I mean whoever is giving you an exploding offer. Hit the ball back in their court by agreeing to it provisionally and asking for more. So the yes is provided that I can have this or this or this or this. On these steps in a collaborative strategy, well, the first thing, you identify the problem. Actually, it's not really easy to identify the problem because it's hard to look at anything objectively when you're in a negotiation. You're thinking about your positions, you're thinking about your interests, you're thinking about the pressures that are on you. You've got to look at it objectively and find the problem. Now, once you find the problem, you have to get underneath the problem to find the issues. One thing I want to mention about generating alternative solutions. This is right on advice from our book. And you can think about creative solutions before you walk into a negotiation. But sometimes it is good to sleep on it. And I don't think we should be afraid to say to our counterpart, "Look, let's take a day off. Let's take a couple of days off, meet again on Wednesday, and both of us see if we can come up with a list of possible solutions." Now, this is difficult to do when you have management to deal with that wants it now, wants the results now. And management is, if you tell your manager, "Well, we decided to sleep on it," your manager might hit the roof because he or she may fear that a competitor will come in and steal the account. But really, achieving a win-win solution can take time, and it's better to take that time rather than wrapping up a negotiation now because of pressures and ending up with a bad deal on your side. As to brainstorming, I really think brainstorming is a fantastic idea because it separates the people from the problem. By that I mean, yeah, it does put you on the same side of the problem and maybe the same side of the table, but the cool thing is it's no longer you versus them at this point. It is both sides versus the problem. And it gives you an opportunity to create value. In other words, you make the pie bigger. You broaden the options. And of course, two heads are better than one. I love brainstorming sessions. I love the energy. I love the creativity. I love the synergy that takes place. And this is a wonderful opportunity to get to know your customer and to demonstrate your sense of fairness, your search for a mutually beneficial solution. And after the brainstorming, you may find that your positions have evolved, and that is good. I think I want to end on this. It's a great idea to find shared interests. Common ground is very important because it makes both parties more sympathetic to each other. It does help you generate creative solutions, and it does make a win-win much more likely. I just want to point out, it's possible to find common ground even with people you don't like. I have negotiated with people who were nasty people, who were unlikable people, but there was something. I found something in them that I liked. Maybe it was their work ethic. Maybe it was they were good parents. I could tell that by their comments. Whatever it was, I would try to find one beachhead, one place to establish some footing, and then we could have a civil conversation from then on. So finding shared interests is very, very important. Okay, I'm going to end this one here. We have more to come, of course. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.